Hey, what's up, everyone? So, Velma, the newest HBO Max original animated series based off the Scooby-Doo IP franchise. So, if you're into animation, or even if you're not, you've probably heard of this show, Velma. Scooby-Doo is a beloved property that's been around a very long time. I want to say since the 70s. So a lot of people grew up watching it, and there's been a lot of variations. So this newest one is one of their more mature ones. They've had somewhat edgy ones before, shows, and even the movies were a little bit edgy because they were written by James Gunn. But this is definitely like the first like rated R Scooby Doo, show. There's blood, people get murdered, talk about sex, all that kind of stuff. It's definitely out there. So Velma follows Velma, from the Scooby Doo gang, and this is supposed to be like an origin of when the team comes together. So they're not really friends for the most part, even though they've known each other for a long time, which is a little weird. And it follows Velma, who's trying to solve the mystery of these kids who are having their brains taken away, like the popular pretty girls, while also trying to find her mom, who's been missing for over 2 years, who she blames for her disappearing. Um, so, like I said, a lot of people have spoken about this. You can go on search it on YouTube, even online, and you'll see a lot of articles about it. It's very much hated, very, very hated, and I went into it with an open mind. I wasn't gonna go in and just hate it because it's people, the internet said it was bad. So I watched it. I watched the entire 10 episodes, pretty much back to back. I waited until the entire show was out completely on HBO Max, and then I sat down and I watched most of it. I think I split it up between 2 days, but I watched it pretty much, continuously. And I have to say, the show isn't very good. It's not very good for a lot of reasons. Not necessarily for the angry reasons that a lot of people are saying, but it's just not very good. Like, I try to like it, and it's definitely within my humor house. Like, there's a lot of shows that are dumb and comedic and crude and crass, or whatever you want to call it, that I absolutely love. But this show just doesn't work. It's often not very funny. It's often not very interesting. The characters are pretty much awful. I didn't like none of them. They were either boring or interesting or just complete jerks, which made me just not like them. So, like I said, I went in with a positive mind, but by the end of it, I was just like, it's a meh show. I can see some people liking it and people not liking it. I think it has like a 40% in Rotten Tomatoes, so not necessarily split, more towards the bottom where people just don't like it. And I understand the bottom half. Like, I'm kind of right there. I'll probably watch the second season because supposedly it already got a second season, but I don't have high hopes for it. Maybe they learned from some of the criticism, the valid criticism about this show. So, like I said, there's a lot that I don't like about this show. Like I said, it's just not very funny. A lot of the jokes don't land because it's one of those things where it feels like rapid fire jokes. Like, they'll throw one joke, and before you can digest it and laugh, they'll throw out another one, or they'll throw out a joke that's just not very funny, and then just another one back to back back. Even when it's a good funny joke, they'll just throw another one, and you're just like, well, okay, well, you just kind of ruined the last joke that I enjoyed. Like I said, the characters are unlikable. They're mostly boring. The main cast, Velma, Daphne, and Fred, they're pretty awful characters. Especially Velma, who's the main character, and that shouldn't be the case. We should like Velma and relate with her, but she's just not a likable character. She's very jerky. She does a lot of awful, mean things, which a lot of the other characters do, so it's just kind of like this awful world. But it doesn't work with these characters, where, like in a show where Rick and Morty, you might be like, okay, they're awful characters, but they're entertaining. It doesn't work with these characters because most of us already have a connection to these characters. Like, I don't like seeing Velma being this horrible jerk person, or Daphne being this horrible person, or Fred. Shaggy, who they call Norval, which, if you seen plenty of Scooby-Doo, you know that's his actual name, is just boring. He's one of the most boring, uninteresting characters in this show. He doesn't even do much. They try to give him, a lot of depth and little stories here in line, or they align with the main story, but he's kind of a little bit disconnected. If he just wasn't friends with Velma, he wouldn't even be part of the story, I would say. Um, yeah, but like I said, he's just boring, so he kind of gets ruined. Velma's pretty horrible. Daphne's pretty horrible. They're very horrible to each other, and like, all the characters kind of have like this quadratic love connection going. Because in the beginning, Velma has a crush on Fred, Daphne's dating Fred, and then Shaggy has a crush on Velma. But then, as the show goes on, Fred gets a crush on Velma, Daphne and Velma get a crush on each other, and Shaggy he starts dating another girl named Gigi, but he still kind of likes Velma. So like, all these characters like each other, and they're trying to impress each other and get with each other. It's not believable, especially with Velma and Daphne, who are very mean and wicked to each other. Like, there's a point where Velma even reads Daphne's diary in the hopes to beat her in this one fight, because they're fighting to help choose like the best fighter or something. Again, the story's kind of mess, so don't mind me by confused facts. But yeah, she reads her diary, and it's like this very personal thing that she hopes will crush her. But all the kids who are watching are just like, that's really messed up. So they kind of boo her, and Daphne ends up winning the fight. But it's just like this mean, awful thing that you don't. Daphne would never forgive her for that and be like, you read my personal fucking diary in front of all these people. Like, that's a horrible thing to do. So that's just like one of the things that makes Velma horrible. Besides her, just she doesn't like her dad. She doesn't like her dad's girlfriend. She pretty much doesn't like anyone, and she just starts fights, even though everyone's just kind of whatever with her. Like, when we first see her, she just assaults Daphne for no real reason. It's like I said, they're horrible, and the comedy's just not very good. The mystery aspect it's fine. It's not a good mystery. Like, when we get the answers, I'm just kind of like, okay, but that doesn't make much sense. And which I'll talk about in spoilers, which I'll hurry up and get to because I'm kind of prattling over here. Like I said, the show's not very good. If you love Scooby-Doo and you love adult animation, you're probably not going to like this. If you're a fan of adult animation, you might be like, okay, it's fine. If you're a fan of Scooby-Doo, you're probably definitely not going to like it. I think those are the two groups they're aiming for. I don't know who else they're aiming for, but I don't think they're a good job to hitting other targets. So let me talk spoilers real fast. Before I get to that, this show's a 3 out of 10 for me. Like I said, I enjoyed it a little bit. There were some jokes I liked. Fred was my favorite character in the show, which is ridiculous. He's a dumb, horrible character, but he has some good jokes, which I really enjoyed, and it felt like he had a little bit of an arc, even though he stumbles back down towards the end, in my opinion. But yeah, 3 out of 10. Okay, so spoilers. So at the end of the show, they find Velma's mom. They figure out who the murderer is. It turns out it's Fred's mom. So she's been kidnapping all these beautiful women or girls because she wants to put her brain, or one of their brains, in Fred's head, because she thinks Fred's an idiot and can't run their company. So that's pretty much why all these people are getting murdered. But it kind of doesn't make any sense, because it's not like they become a different person. Their brains just go into a new body. So like, these people would be like, I don't want to be in Fred's body. And her reasoning is that, with all the privileges that it comes with being a white male, they'll be able to super succeed in the business and be able to run it like no one else. But there's nothing really special about the brains she's taking. They're just these beautiful, intelligent teenage girls, which she connects to because she used to be one or something like that. She ends up dying at the end. Shaggy fucking kills her, which is kind of intense. He's traumatized by it at the end of the show. But yeah, that's the big mystery. She kidnapped Velma's mom to help do these experiments. And it's very bad. It's very just like, that doesn't make any sense. It would kind of make sense if she wanted to put her brain in Fred's body so she could have all those opportunities. But to put some random girl's brain in his head, it's just like, you can't control that girl. They still keep their personality and everything. So it really didn't make any sense. But it is what it is. It was just, a tool for the story for the 10 episodes to have all these comedic bits. And it's not like the mystery was the biggest important thing in Scooby-Doo shows. Like, it's important, but it's just like, it doesn't really matter who's under the mask. It's all the hijinks and antics that happen in the show, in my opinion, that make the show good. Noticeably, Scooby's not in this, which is kind of one of the reasons I think Shaggy is boring. He just kind of doesn't seem to work without Scooby, in my opinion. They're a pair. Like in everything else Scooby-Doo related, they're always together. This is the first show where we don't have Scooby and we don't have Scooby and Shaggy together. And it's just very noticeable for any old fans. And it just kind of, like I said, it kind of makes Shaggy boring, even though they try to connect him with other people. It doesn't work. It feels more like he needs to be a pair. He needs that foil. He needs someone to bounce off of. So, yeah, like I said, pretty much the show, not very good. Do I recommend it? If you have an interest, there's plenty of people who hate watched it. I would say no. As an animation fan, there's better things to watch. If you're looking for adult animation, there's definitely better shows out there that are more interesting. But this just isn't it. It's fine at best. It's just fine at best. But it's mostly bad and just no good. Okay, so if you watched it, what are your thoughts? Did you hate it? Did you love it? Probably hated it. How do you think they could improve the show? I think that's the conversation that needs to be had. Because I think there is potential in an adult Scooby-Doo show. But I think they just went in the wrong direction with this. Like, there's a lot more bad things I could say. Minnie Kaling does not do a good job as Velma. She's just not a good voice actor, in my opinion. But yeah, I think there's definitely things that could have improved this show and could improve it for a second season. Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.